people, it's me, Anja. Welcome back to my channel. So, before I get into the books, I'd like to give people an update. I suppose this is one of those updates that like nobody asks for, but I'm giving anyway. So I mentioned in my favorite retellings video that I've been filming 4 weeks in advance, but now I've been filming 6 weeks in advance. So that's really fun. I pre-film because now that I've established a schedule, I can only upload 8 videos a month. So like when I get a lot of good ideas and I just want to film all the time, I end up pre-filming 6 weeks in advance. So there's that. Anyway, the first book on this list is called The Young Elites, written by Marie Lu. This is a YA fantasy dystopian book, and it follows Adelina, who's the survivor of this deadly blood fever, and she emerges with new powers, and her family does not like her, and nobody really likes the survivors of this blood fever because they're all known as like abominations, and like all that. Her family hates her, everybody hates her, but like when she finds this new group of people who call themselves the Young Elites, she discovers that there are more people like her with new powers. Basically, this book was what I wanted The Darkest Minds to be. Now, to be fair, I DNF'd The Darkest Minds, and The Young Elites I thought was good. It was solid. I ended up rating it 3 stars. I completely understand why people, after finishing the Legend trilogy, were less than satisfied with this book, because like this book felt like your typical YA 2014 fantasy. It didn't really stand out to me, and I'm not continuing the series. I'm not going to read the sequels, and yeah, some series just don't do it for me, and this series definitely did not stand out to me. And honestly, I found that 1 out of 4 of the perspectives were completely unnecessary. So overall, I am DNFing this series, and I don't feel guilty. It just didn't do it. The next book is called 7 Clues to Home, and this is a middle grade contemporary, and it follows Joy as she embarks on a traditional birthday scavenger hunt that her best friend Lucas left her a year ago before his death. So it deals with grief, and Joy is like 12 years old or something. So I really liked it when middle grade stories deal with grief, because I feel like sometimes grief is limited to only YA, and it's really nice to see like a younger audience deal with grief, because that is something that younger people also deal with. So overall, I rated this book 3.5 stars. Honestly, like I really liked Joy's perspective. I felt like Lucas's perspective kind of took away from Joy's, and honestly, most of the time when I was reading his perspective, I thought that it was really unnecessary, and I was like skimming almost his perspective to get back to Joy's perspective, because like I just found no need in Lucas's perspective. I think that the story would have been a lot better if it was only in Joy's perspective, or at least if Lucas hadn't gotten half of the book. Like maybe like a few italicized chapters here and there, but definitely not half of the book. That was not necessary at all. So anyway, overall, like I said, I rated this book 3.5 stars. It was good, it was solid. Yeah, nothing more else to say. The next book on this list is called This Coven Won't Break, written by Isabel Sterling. For those who don't know, this is the sequel to These Witches Don't Burn, and this is the second book in a duology. And let's just say that this duology is not going to go on my list of underrated duologies, because for this one, I ended up rating it 3.5 stars, and the first one was definitely better. Don't get me wrong, this one did have an action-packed plot, and it had, like, the stakes were definitely raised, and I do appreciate that. Just with that, I felt like the character development was a little bit lacking, and I found myself like missing character, if that makes any sense. Like I wish that Gemma had more screen time, because honestly I prefer the friendship of Gemma and Hannah to the romantic relationship of Hannah and Morgan. Like I don't know if that makes any sense. This is a good like sapphic YA fantasy contemporary if you're into that, but I don't know, this story just didn't stand out to me, and maybe that's because like I didn't really love These Witches Don't Bone either. So like basically Isabel Sterling could have done a better job with what she was given, you know? But yeah, overall this book was solid. It was good. It was a nice like conclusive ending to the duology, which I appreciated. But overall the ending was the best part. The middle, the beginning, we don't talk about it. The next book is called The Cassandra Calls. This is the first book in a fantasy contemporary-ish duology about a Cuban-American girl named Kalyn, and she discovers that she's one of the 9 muses of Greek mythology. I liked this book. Overall, I rated it 3.5 stars. It's a middle grade, and honestly, it fell more on the younger side of middle grade, which I wasn't really expecting. So I enjoy this book a little bit less than I was anticipating. As a person who reads middle grade quite frequently, yeah, I wasn't expecting this book to fall like on the younger side, like even younger than like Percy Jackson and stuff. But I did find the characterization and the friendship between the characters to be very wholesome. Kalyn was a really realistic, relatable character, and like this book was good, and I like the unique world building. I don't think I've ever read a book before that talks about the 9 muses of Greek mythology, so like that was cool. But like overall, I don't think that I am going to continue the series, so I would recommend it to the middle grade audience, but like not anybody who's older than the middle grade audience and wants to venture into middle grade, if that makes any sense, you know? So if you're between the ages of like 8 and 13, I would recommend this book, but specifically if you're between the ages of like 8 and 10. So the next book on this list is called The Cleave Idol, which is the sequel to The Storm Crow, which I read last fall. This is a YA fantasy duology, and it's written by Kalyn Josephson. This duology is so underrated. The Cleave Idol was so good. What a great sequel. Like the romance, the character development, the world building, the stakes were raised in this book, and all of those elements weaved together to be such a wonderful, lovely story. This duology is truly so underrated. I know that I read relatively a lot of underrated books, but this duology is truly so underrated in the YA fantasy genre, and it is so good, and I truly really enjoyed it. I love this book so much. Like I said, I ended up rating it 4 stars because it is so good, and I just really want to read another duology like this one, and this book deserves so much more hype than it receives because it is so brilliant and excellent, and I just really liked it, if you didn't know. So please read this duology. It is so good. The last book on this list is called Super Adjacent. This is a YA fantasy contemporary story set in a world where superheroes exist in the modern day, and it follows 2 characters, Claire and Bridget. Claire really wants to work with superheroes, and she's so excited to prove her worth. Bridget, on the other hand, wants nothing to do with superheroes because she's dating a superhero, and she really wants to break up with him, so she wants nothing to do with Warrior Nation, which is the company that Claire wants to work with superheroes. So when Bridget meets Claire, you know, things don't really go according to plan. I liked this story. Like, I don't regret reading it, but like overall, it wasn't amazing. It was more romance-driven than I was expecting, which is great if you like romance-driven stories. I just don't. So I found the romance to be really rushed. Character development, we don't know her. I preferred Claire's perspective over Bridget's just because I preferred Claire's personality over Bridget's, and honestly sometimes when I was reading the book I found Bridget's perspective to be really unnecessary. But yeah, overall this book just wasn't amazing, and you know, that's okay. They can't all be winners, and honestly it just felt more like a middle grade than a YA because it was cheesy, it was predictable, and it just wasn't, you know, super amazing. To be completely honest with you guys, I almost didn't film this video because I don't like talking about the books that I didn't like. And if you couldn't tell, most of the books in this list were mediocre and disappointing. But I ended up choosing to film this video because I didn't want anybody to feel like my channel is some sort of highlight reel, because it definitely isn't. Highlight reels are not realistic depictions of my reading. So sometimes the books I read just aren't all 4 and 5 stars, and that's okay. That's more realistic. So overall, the best book that I read this week was definitely The Storm Club. It was so brilliant and excellent. And the worst book that I read was Super Adjacent, which was really like mediocre and kind of low-key disappointing. So yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if any of these books interested you. If any of them, I don't know what to comment. Anyway, subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching. Bye.